I did not go to the 24-hour pharmacy for romance. I went because I was desperate. It was Tuesday night, almost 11 p.m., and I had been staring at my ceiling like it was going to give me answers. My head would not shut off. Bills, clients, rent, the same thoughts running in circles. When the silence got loud enough to feel like pressure in my chest, I finally grabbed my hoodie and walked out into the cold Indianapolis air. My apartment is a cramped studio on the edge of the city, the kind of place where the radiator hums louder than the traffic outside. I'm Elias, 26, a freelance graphic designer, which sounds cool until you realize it means chasing invoices and dealing with clients who change their minds every 5 minutes. Some weeks I feel on top of things. Most weeks I feel like I'm one missed payment away from panic. And lately, I wasn't just tired. I was bone-deep tired, the kind where your body begs for sleep but your brain refuses to let you have it. The streets were quiet, almost empty, like the city had decided to take a breath without me. A distant train hummed somewhere far off. Streetlights glowed through thin October mist. By the time I reached the pharmacy, my hands were cold and my thoughts were still racing. The neon sign flickered like it was hanging on by a thread, and when I pushed through the glass doors, the bright lights hit my face hard. Inside, it smelled like antiseptic, cheap air freshener, and something faintly floral. Soft jazz played over the speakers, the kind meant to calm people down, but it only made the place feel lonelier. The aisles were empty. Shampoo bottles and cold medicine sat in neat rows like they were watching me. I walked up to the counter, and that's when I saw her. She looked up from a stack of receipts, and for a second her eyes caught mine like she recognized something in me. Her name tag read Nora. Early 30s, brown hair in a messy bun. A few loose strands like she'd stopped fighting them. No makeup. A plain white pharmacy coat over a gray t-shirt. She was not trying to impress anyone, and somehow that made her stand out more than anyone ever had. "Hey," I said, and my voice came out rough, like I had not spoken to a real person in days. "I need something to help me sleep, nothing strong. Just something to shut my brain off for a few hours." Nora set the receipts down and leaned forward a little, resting her elbows on the counter. She did not look at me like I was annoying. She looked at me like I mattered. "Rough night?" she asked. "Rough couple months," I admitted, rubbing the back of my neck. My head stuck on a loop. Work, bills, freelance stuff. "I'm tired, but I can't sleep." She nodded like she understood, not like she was pretending. "I've got some over-the-counter options," she said. "Melatonin, some mild stuff. It can help." Then she paused, her fingers tapping the counter once, soft and steady. "Elias," she said, and my stomach tightened when she said my name. "Mind if I call you that?" I blinked. My name was on the credit card I had pulled out, but hearing it in her voice felt different, like she was talking to me, not just a customer. "Yeah," I said, trying to sound normal. "That's fine." Quote. She tilted her head slightly, studying me in a way that was not judging and not nosy, just honest. "You look like you're carrying more than insomnia," she said. "You sure you're just looking for a pill?" I let out a short laugh because the alternative was admitting she was right. "What is this, therapy at the pharmacy counter?" Her smile flickered, small but real. "I'm not a therapist," she said, "but I work nights and it's not exactly busy. Sometimes talking helps more than medicine." I did not know why I stayed. I could have grabbed the bottle and left. I could have gone back to my apartment and stared at the ceiling again. But her voice felt warm, like a blanket you forget you need until someone puts it around your shoulders. "It's just," I said, leaning against the counter, my words coming slower now. "I'm 26. I thought I'd have it figured out. A steady job, a plan. Instead, I feel like I'm treading water and pretending it's fine." Nora's eyes softened, like she had been in that exact place. "That question hits hardest at night," she said, "when everything is quiet and your brain decides to be cruel." I swallowed, because that was exactly it. "Yeah," I said. "That's it." She reached under the counter, grabbed a small bottle, and slid it toward me. "Take this tonight if you need it," she said. "But I don't think this is what you really came in for." I looked down at the bottle, then back up at her. "Then what did I come in for?" I asked, even though I already felt the answer in the way my heart was beating faster. Nora held my gaze like she wasn't afraid of it. Someone to listen, she said. Someone to remind you you're not alone. The words landed in my chest, heavy and good at the same time. I tried to play it off, but my voice came out quieter. And you're offering that to a stranger? She shrugged, like it was the simplest thing in the world. I'm off at 6 tomorrow, she said. There's a coffee shop by the park. The scones are terrible, but the lattes are decent. Meet me there. We can take a walk. You can tell me what's really keeping you up. My brain froze. My hands went warm around the bottle. I stared at her, searching for a catch, for a joke, for anything that made this make sense. But there was no game in her eyes, just calm certainty. You don't even know me, I said, half laughing because I didn't know how else to handle the feeling rising in my throat. I know you're tired, she said, and I know what that looks like. I should have said no. I should have made a joke and walked out, but my fingers brushed hers as I took the bottle, and that tiny contact made my chest tighten in a way sleep never had. Yeah, I heard myself say. Okay, I'll come. Nora nodded, like she had been sure I would. Good, she said. Now go home, Elias. Try to rest. I walked out into the cold night with the bottle in my pocket, my thoughts still loud but different now. Because for the first time in months, I wasn't just chasing sleep. I was thinking about 6 o'clock tomorrow, and the way Nora looked at me like she already knew I'd show up. The next day crawled by like it was trying to punish me for saying yes. I woke up late with my laptop still open on my couch, a half-finished logo staring at me like an accusation. The bottle of melatonin sat on my counter, unopened, and I hated that it made me think of Nora. Not because it was weird, because it felt hopeful. And hope is the kind of thing that scares you when you have been tired for too long. I worked anyway. Or I tried to. Clients kept emailing. One wanted the logo modern but vintage. Another wanted it bold but subtle. My brain kept drifting back to the pharmacy counter, the soft jazz, and Nora saying my name like she meant it. By 5 o'clock I was pacing my studio, looking at the clock every few minutes like it was moving slower on purpose. At 5:40, I finally grabbed a jacket and left. The air had that sharp October bite that makes your lungs feel awake. The coffee shop near the park was small and trying too hard to be cozy. Mismatched chairs, chalkboard menu, burnt espresso smell. I got there early because waiting at home felt worse than waiting in public. I ordered black coffee just to have something in my hands. Then I sat by the window and watched the street like I was waiting for a bus that might never come. At 6:05, the door opened and Nora walked in. She was not in her pharmacy coat. She wore a beige sweater, jeans, and a scarf loosely draped around her neck. Her hair was down, curling at the ends, catching the warm light of the shop. She looked softer this way, less like a night shift worker, and more like someone who belonged in an evening that had a chance of turning good. She spotted me, waved, and slid into the chair across from me like it was normal. Like inviting a stranger to coffee was something she did every day. You showed, she said, smiling. I wasn't sure you would. I almost didn't, I admitted. I thought it might be awkward. She laughed, and the sound hit me like fresh air. Let's make a deal, she said. No small talk, no weather, no sports. Just the real stuff. I felt my shoulders drop without permission. Deal. She took a sip of her latte and watched me like she was waiting for me to be honest. So I was. I told her about freelancing and the constant fear that I was one bad week away from being broke. I told her how every invoice felt like a gamble, how friends my age had steady jobs and health insurance and plans, and I felt like I was sprinting on a treadmill that never moved. I told her that the worst part wasn't even the money. It was the feeling that I was wasting my 20s, and I would wake up one day and realize I had built nothing. Nora did not interrupt. She did not look at her phone. She listened like it mattered, like the words were something she could hold with care. When I finally stopped, embarrassed at how much I had spilled, she tilted her head. Your turn, I said. Why do you work nights at a pharmacy? You don't seem like someone who just ended up there. Her fingers traced the rim of her cup for a moment. Then she looked up at me. I studied psychology, she said. I thought I'd be a therapist. I wanted to help people. I wanted to be that person who sits across from you and makes it feel safe to tell the truth. I nodded, waiting. I got engaged when I was 25, she continued. I thought I had my whole life planned. Wedding, house, all of it. Then a week before the wedding, he left. No conversation, no real explanation, just a note that said he wasn't ready. The words were calm, but her eyes weren't. There was something old in them, like a bruise you stop talking about but never stop feeling. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. She shrugged, like she was trying to make it smaller. After that, I needed steady. I needed routine. Pharmacy work was available. Nights were quiet. And it turns out, people come in at 2 a.m. needing someone to listen almost as much as they need medicine. I stared at her for a second, my chest tight in a new way. So you're the unofficial therapist of the night shift. Her smile returned, softer. Something like that. The coffee shop buzzed around us, but it felt like we were in our own pocket of calm. Outside, the park trees were turning red and gold. Streetlights flickered on as the sky dimmed. Let's walk, Nora said, standing up. This place is stuffy and I'm not done with you yet. I laughed because it felt good to laugh. Careful, I said. I might bore you to death with my freelancer misery. I'll take the risk, she said, and her eyes sparkled like it was a challenge. We walked through the park, leaves crunching under our shoes. The cold air made my face sting, but my mind felt clearer than it had in weeks. We talked about the things that usually stayed stuck in my head. She asked questions that made me think instead of panic. She told me about jazz, about how she used to play it late at night to calm herself down when her thoughts got too loud. I draw, I told her, surprising myself. I used to, before it became all client work, before it became about money. You should draw again, she said. Not for anyone else. Just for you. The idea sat in my chest like a small, warm ember. I did not promise anything, but I did not shut it down either. When we reached a bench under a tree, we stopped. The city lights glowed through the branches. Nora's scarf shifted in the wind. She looked at me like she was seeing past the tired parts and finding something worth keeping. You look less haunted, she said. I feel less haunted, I admitted. She smiled. Good, because I want you to come back. Thursday, same coffee shop. My heart jumped in a way that made me feel ridiculous. Thursday, I said. Yeah. That night, when I went back to my apartment, I still didn't sleep perfectly, but it was different. I put on the jazz playlist she texted me, one she named Night Shift, and I lay on my couch listening. For the first time in months, my thoughts slowed. I fell asleep without counting cracks on the ceiling. The next couple of weeks blurred in the best way. Nora and I started meeting 2, sometimes 3 times a week. Coffee. Walks by the Indianapolis Canal. Benches in the park. Diner booths after her shift with coffee that tasted like it had been sitting there since 1999. It was never officially a date, but it never felt casual either. She listened. I listened back. That was the part that shocked me. I wasn't just talking at someone. I was with someone. I started drawing again, too. At night, when the restlessness crept in, I grabbed a sketchpad instead of my phone. The lines were messy at first, but they were mine. One evening, I showed Nora a sketch of our bench, the chipped paint, the way the canal lights reflected on the water. She stared at it for a long moment, then traced the edge of the paper with her fingertip. This is us, she said quietly. My face warmed, and I looked away like a teenager. It's just a bench. It's not just a bench, she said. It's where you started coming back to yourself. She started leaving little notes for me, too. One time, she slipped a sticky note into my hoodie pocket, and I didn't find it until I got home. You smiled 3 times tonight. Progress. I laughed so hard I startled myself. Then I folded it carefully and put it in my desk drawer like it was something valuable. I should have been happy. I was happy. But happiness has a way of waking up old fear. On a Friday, work hit me like a truck. A client rejected a design I had spent days perfecting. Another email came in demanding revisions by morning. My bank account looked like a joke. The old thoughts rushed back, louder than ever. You're behind. You're failing. You're pretending. Then the fear shifted, and it wasn't about work anymore. It was about Nora. She was steady. She was kind. She was the first person in a long time who made me feel like I wasn't drowning, and my brain did what it always does when something starts to matter. It tried to protect me by ruining it. That evening, we were supposed to meet at the park after her shift. I didn't go. I told myself I would text. I didn't. I told myself I would call. I didn't. I sat in my studio staring at my sketch pad, frozen, like silence was safer than showing her the messy parts of me. One day became two. Two became three. My insomnia came back hard, like it had been waiting for me to slip. I lay awake replaying Nora's laugh, her eyes, the way she looked at me like I was worth something. Every time my phone buzzed, my stomach dropped. I didn't check. I didn't answer. I hated myself for it, and still I couldn't stop. On the third night, I finally grabbed my sketch pad and started drawing without thinking. My pencil moved fast, messy, desperate. A woman with a scarf under a streetlight, Nora, or my version of her. I stared at the sketch when I was done, my throat tight. I realized I wasn't scared of her leaving. I was scared she would stay, and I wouldn't be able to handle how much that meant. I closed the sketch pad, shoved on my hoodie, and walked to the pharmacy. It was almost midnight. The streets were quiet again, the same misty October cold. The neon sign flickered like it was still dying. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat. This time, I didn't want medicine. I wanted Nora. The door chimed as I stepped inside. Nora was behind the counter, restocking cold medicine, her movements slow, controlled. She didn't look up right away, but her shoulders tightened like she already knew it was me. I walked closer, my sneakers squeaking on the tile, my hands stuffed in my pockets so she wouldn't see them shaking. "Nora," I said, my voice rough. "I'm sorry." Quote. She set the box down and turned to face me. Her eyes weren't angry, they were hurt. "You disappeared," she said, calm but sharp. "No call, no text. Just nothing." I swallowed hard. "I got scared," I admitted, "and I hate that I did it." Nora stared at me for a long moment, like she was deciding if I deserved another chance. Then she leaned forward slightly, her voice lowering. "I have a stronger medicine for you," she said. My breath caught. "Will you help me take it?" I asked, barely above a whisper. "Is it bitter?" Nora held my eyes like she was not joking, like she had been waiting days to say those words. "I have a stronger medicine for you," she repeated. The pharmacy lights buzzed above us. Jazz played low in the background. The aisles were still empty, but I felt like the room had gotten crowded with everything I was trying not to feel. I swallowed. "Will you help me take it?" I asked. "Is it bitter?" Nora's mouth lifted a little, but her eyes stayed serious. "It can be," she said, "but it works." I let out a shaky breath. "What is it?" Quote. She leaned forward on the counter close enough that her voice felt private. "Honesty," she said, "the kind you do not run from. The kind you say out loud, even when it makes you feel exposed." I stared at her, my chest tight. "That sounds worse than melatonin." "It is," she said, "because it does not make you sleep. It makes you wake up. It makes you face what is really going on." I rubbed my palms on my hoodie like I could wipe the fear off my skin. "Okay," I said. "How do I take it?" Quote. Nora looked at the clock behind the counter. "I have break in a few minutes," she said. "If you are serious, you stay. You do not run. You do not make a joke and disappear again." "I'm serious," I said fast. "I'm here." She nodded once like that mattered more than any apology. Good. When her break started, she grabbed 2 paper cups from the back and poured tea from a little electric kettle. Then she came around the counter and pushed open the side door. "Come on," she said. We stepped outside to a bench near the empty parking lot. The cold hit my face and made my eyes sting. The air smelled like wet leaves and exhaust. Our breath showed in short white clouds. Nora sat first, tucking one leg under her. She held her tea with both hands like she needed the warmth. I sat beside her, leaving space between us like I was not sure I had earned closeness yet. She looked at me, and the hurt in her eyes was still there, but it was softer now. Not gone, just no longer sharp. "Take the medicine," she said. My throat tightened. "I was scared," I said. "I know that part," she replied. I nodded, feeling my heart beat in my ears. "I was scared because you make me feel safe," I said, the words coming out like they were pulled from somewhere deep. "And I don't trust safe. Every time I start to feel safe, my brain tells me it is going to end, so I run first. That way I can tell myself I chose it." Nora's gaze did not move. She did not flinch. She just listened. "I didn't want to ruin what we had," I continued. "Then I ruined it anyway. I hate that I did that to you." Nora's fingers tightened around her cup. "It did hurt," she said. "Not because you were overwhelmed. People get overwhelmed. It hurt because you left me standing there, wondering if I imagined the whole thing." My eyes burned. "You didn't," I said. "I just got in my own way." She watched me for a long second, then looked down at her tea. "You know what I wanted to do after the second day you didn't answer?" she asked. "What?" I said quietly. "I wanted to stop," she admitted. "I wanted to tell myself it was not worth it, that you were just another person who liked what I gave but didn't want to show up for it." The words hit me like a punch. "Nora," I said, my voice breaking a little, "I want to show up, I just don't know how." She turned her head toward me again. Her eyes were calm now but firm. "Then you learn," she said, "and you start with something simple." "Okay." "If you are scared, you tell me," she said. "If you need space, you tell me. If you are drowning, you tell me. You do not punish me with silence." I nodded fast. "I can do that." "Can you?" she asked. I held her gaze. "Yes," I said. "Even if it's bitter." Quote. Nora's mouth softened, like she was proud of me and mad at me at the same time. "Good," she said. "That's the stronger medicine. Not because it fixes you overnight, but because it stops the loop." The wind pushed her scarf against her shoulder. Without thinking, I reached out and adjusted it. Gentle, careful. My fingers brushed her neck for half a second. Nora went still. I pulled back like I had touched a hot stove, but she did not move away. She just looked at me, her eyes searching my face like she was checking if I meant it, if I was real. "I missed you," I said before I could stop myself. Her breath caught, and for a moment, she looked tired in a way that made my chest ache. "I missed you too," she said, and I hated that I did. I let out a laugh that sounded more like relief than humor. "That sounds bad." "It is," she said, but she smiled a little. "But it is also honest." We sat there for a few seconds with the cold and the quiet wrapping around us. The bench felt small. The space between us felt smaller. Nora lifted her cup. "Drink," she said. I took a sip of my tea even though I didn't need it. It tasted plain and warm, not bitter at all. "That's not bitter," I said. Nora's eyes held mine. "The tea isn't," she replied. "The truth is." My chest tightened again, but this time it was not fear. It was something like wanting her close. Wanting to be the kind of man who could hold something good without crushing it. Nora's break ended too soon. She stood up and dusted off her jeans. "I have to go back in," she said, "but I'm not done with you." "I'm not going anywhere," I promised. She studied me like she was measuring the promise. Then she nodded. "Wait inside," she said. "When I get off, we're getting food." "Okay," I said, and my voice sounded steadier than it had in days. 2 hours later, we were in a 24-hour diner a few blocks away. The tables were sticky. The coffee tasted burnt. The neon signs outside buzzed like they were tired too. It was the kind of place that felt ugly in daylight, but comforting at midnight. Nora slid into the booth across from me and sighed, like her body finally let go of the shift. Her hair was messier now, her eyes softer. We talked at first about simple things, like a customer who came in asking for toothpaste because he was too nervous to kiss his date goodnight. Nora laughed so hard she had to cover her mouth. Then the conversation turned quiet. "I need you to know something," Nora said, stirring sugar into her coffee. "I'm not perfect at this either." "At what?" I asked. "At letting people in," she said. "After my engagement fell apart, I built walls that felt like safety. Then you walked into my pharmacy looking like you were falling apart, and I did the one thing I told myself I wouldn't do." "What?" I asked, even though I already knew. "I cared," she said. The word sat between us like it had weight. My throat tightened again. I care too, I admitted. That's what scared me. Nora's eyes stayed on mine. Then do not waste it, she said. If we do this, we do it with honesty, no disappearing. I won't, I said. I don't want to. Her hand moved across the table, slow. She rested her fingers near mine, not touching yet, like she was asking without asking. I placed my hand down beside hers, our fingers brushed. Then she slid her hand into mine, warm and steady. A simple touch, but it felt like a decision. When she walked me to my car, the air was colder than before, but I barely noticed. We stood under the streetlight for a moment, the orange glow making her eyes look almost golden. Go home, she said. Try to sleep. I'll try, I said. And Nora? Yes, she asked. Thank you for not letting me get away with it, I said. Thank you for the stronger medicine. Nora smiled, but there was something careful in it, like she was still protecting herself. Don't thank me yet, she said. You still have to keep taking it. I will, I promised. The next week felt different, not perfect, just different. When my anxiety hit, I texted her instead of shutting down. When a client pushed me too hard, I told Nora I felt like I was failing. She didn't fix it with magic words. She just listened, and somehow that helped more than any advice. One night, near the end of her shift, she slipped a note into my hoodie pocket. You showed up. That matters. I stared at it when I got home, my chest tight in that warm way again. A few days later, Nora invited me to her apartment for dinner. When I walked in, her place smelled like garlic and melted cheese. There were books everywhere, psychology books stacked like she was still trying to build the life she planned. A record player sat on a small table, and Miles Davis played low in the background like a heartbeat. She made lasagna. We ate at her tiny table, knees almost touching. She talked about her dream again, about opening a small pharmacy with a counseling room attached. A place where people can come for more than just pills, she said. A place that feels safe. You already made one person feel safe, I said, and my voice came out quiet. Me. Nora's eyes softened. She reached across the table and brushed her fingers against mine. You're not just taking medicine anymore, she said. You're changing. I swallowed. So are you, I said. Her breath caught. For a second, the room felt too small for everything I wanted to say. Nora stood up and walked to the counter like she needed space. Then she turned back to me, her face serious again. Elias, she said. Yeah? I answered, my heart suddenly pounding. There's something I haven't told you, she said, and her voice was calm, but I could hear the edge under it. And I need you to take the stronger medicine again. My stomach dropped. What is it? I asked. Nora glanced toward her phone on the counter. The screen was lit up, like it had just buzzed. Then she looked back at me, and her eyes were scared. He's in Indianapolis, she said. My throat went dry. Who? I asked, even though I felt the answer before she said it. Nora's voice came out low. My ex, she said. The one who left. Quote, the words hit the room like cold air. He's in Indianapolis, Nora said. For a second, I just stared at her, my mind trying to catch up. Miles Davis played softly from the record player, but it sounded distant now, like it was coming from another apartment, another life. Who? I asked, even though I already knew. Nora swallowed. My ex, she said. The one who left, the one who walked out a week before my wedding. My chest tightened. Not because I wanted to be angry, but because I could see the fear in her face. She was standing near the counter like she needed something solid to hold on to. Why is he here? I asked. Nora glanced at her phone again. He messaged me, she said. Out of nowhere. He said he's in town for a few days. He wants to talk. I tried to breathe slowly, the way she taught me. Stronger medicine, honesty, show up. I held onto those words like a railing. What do you want? I asked her. Not what he wants, you. Nora's eyes flicked to mine, and I saw how much she was fighting herself. I don't know, she admitted. Part of me wants to ignore it. Part of me wants answers, and part of me is terrified that I'll fall back into the same pain. I nodded, because I understood that feeling too well. The past doesn't just disappear, it waits. It shows up when you finally start to feel safe. I'm here, I said. Whatever you decide, I'm here. Nora's shoulders dropped a fraction, like my words gave her room to stand. She walked back to the table and sat down across from me. She looked smaller, sitting there, not weak, just human. He didn't even apologize in the message, she said quietly. It was just, can we talk? Like he didn't blow up my whole life. My hands curled into fists under the table. I forced them open again. This wasn't about my anger. It was about her healing. You don't owe him anything, I said, but you also don't owe yourself silence. If you need answers, you can get them. Just do it on your terms. Nora's eye stayed on me. You're not scared? She asked. I laughed once, short and honest. I'm terrified, I said, but I'm not running. The corner of her mouth lifted, and it was sad and warm at the same time. You're learning, she said. That's the medicine, I said, trying to lighten it, still bitter. Nora looked down at her plate of lasagna like she had forgotten it existed. Then she pushed it away. I want to meet him, she said, not because I want him back, because I'm tired of wondering what happened. My stomach sank and steadied in the same breath. Okay, I said. When? Tomorrow, she answered. He suggested a coffee shop downtown, noon. I hesitated, then said the honest thing. Do you want me there? Nora looked up fast. Not at the table, she said, but close. Just in case. I nodded. Done. The next morning I woke up earlier than usual, like my body sensed something big was coming. My apartment looked the same as always. Messy couch, laptop, bills on the counter. But I felt different, not confident, just present. By 11:30 I was downtown, sitting in a coffee shop across the street from the one Nora had picked. The air smelled like espresso and nerves. I kept checking my phone, and when Nora finally texted, I'm here, my chest tightened. I moved to the window and watched. Nora walked into the shop with her scarf wrapped tight around her neck. She looked steady from a distance, like she had practiced it. Then a man stood up from a table near the back. He looked normal. That was what shocked me. No villain face, no dark coat, just a guy in a jacket with tired eyes. Nora sat down. He talked first. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw his hands moving, explaining, pleading. Nora's face didn't change much, but her fingers kept twisting her napkin. Minutes passed like hours. Then I saw him reach across the table like he wanted to touch her hand. Nora pulled back. My heart thumped hard. I leaned closer to the window, fighting the urge to storm in there and drag her out. Then Nora stood up. The man stood too. His face panicked, his mouth moving faster. Nora said something sharp, something that made him flinch. She grabbed her purse and walked out without looking back. The moment she stepped onto the sidewalk, I was already crossing the street. Nora, I said gently. She turned toward me, and her eyes were glassy but fierce. He said he left because he was scared, she said, her voice tight. He said I was too real, too serious, too much. I felt my jaw clench. That's not a reason, I said. It's his reason. She snapped, then exhaled, like she regretted the sharpness. And you know what he said next? I shook my head. He asked if we could try again, she said, almost laughing in disbelief. Like it's a movie, and he showed up at the last minute and I'm supposed to melt. My chest hurt for her. What did you say? Nora looked at me and her eyes softened in a way that made me feel like the whole city had gone quiet. I told him no, she said. I told him I'm not waiting for someone who only wants me when it's convenient. I told him he doesn't get to pick me up like a dropped wallet and pretend it didn't break anything. My throat tightened. I'm proud of you, I said. She blinked fast. I didn't know if I could do it, she admitted. I was shaking the whole time. You did it anyway, I said. That's the medicine. Nora let out a breath and laughed a little, shaky, still bitter. Yeah, I said. But it works. We stood there on the sidewalk while people walked around us like nothing had happened. The sky was gray. Cars passed. Life kept moving. Nora's hand found mine. That simple touch, warm and sure, made something shift in me. "I wanted you close," she said quietly, "not because I needed saving, because I wanted to know I wasn't alone." I squeezed her hand. "You're not alone," I said. "Not if I have any say." Nora looked up at me, and for a second she looked like the woman from the pharmacy counter again, calm and sharp and present. "I have something for you too," she said. I raised an eyebrow. "Another medicine?" She nodded. "Stronger," she said. I laughed, but my heart was pounding. "Will you help me take it?" I asked. "Is it bitter?" Nora stepped closer. "It's sweet," she said, "but it's scary." "What is it?" I asked, my voice low. She lifted her free hand and touched my cheek, gentle, like she was making sure I was real. "It's letting someone love you," she said, "without making them chase you through silence." My breath caught. The streetlight above us flickered on, even though it was still afternoon, like the day was getting ready to surrender tonight. "I want that," I said. "I want you." Nora's eyes searched mine, making sure I wasn't saying it out of fear. Then her lips parted slightly, and her voice came out soft. "Then show up," she said, "not just when it's easy, when it's hard too." "I will," I promised. Nora nodded once, like she believed me. Then she leaned in and kissed me. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't dramatic. It was warm and steady, like the first good breath after being underwater. When she pulled back, her forehead rested against mine for a second. "I still get scared," she whispered. "Me too," I said, "but we don't have to run." That night we went back to her apartment. We did not talk about the ex again. We made tea. We put on jazz. We sat on her couch with our shoulders touching. Later, when I walked home, the city felt different. Not quieter, just less heavy. In my studio, the radiator hummed, the same as always. The traffic outside was the same. But my brain was not screaming anymore. I sat at my desk, opened my sketchpad, and drew the Indianapolis skyline at dusk. Not for a client. Not for money. Just because I wanted to. Before I went to bed, my phone buzzed. A message from Nora. "You showed up today. Keep taking the medicine." I smiled, put the phone down, and lay on my couch. For the first time in months, sleep came without a fight. Not because life was suddenly perfect, because I wasn't facing it alone anymore.